So this also applies to things like AI. So because we have a full data loss protection engine built into Island, I may not want my users to put personally identifiable information into ChatGPT or Copilot or wherever it might be. So if I say, how's the weather in Dallas to Copilot, well, that's fine. All of that data went out, and it's going to answer my question for me. However, if I say, I'm Jason at island.io, well, that's an email address. So that's actually a personally identifiable piece of information. So notice it blocked me from even finish typing it, right? It literally deleted it from my typing. Never went out to Copilot and never left the computer, never got on the network. So that same type of logic applies if we even have files. So if I have a document here, let's say that has some text in it, I could drop a file in it and notice this file just uploaded. Okay. So this thing just uploaded. I could say, what's in this file? And notice that Copilot did receive it and looked inside the file, and it says it has one word. It says hello. And sure enough, that's exactly what's in that file. However, I've got another file that says hello and it has a credit card number in it. But this is the type of data that I don't want accidentally put into large language models. And so the Island engine is going to scan that upload and make sure that it doesn't get anywhere. And in this case, notice that I was not able to get that file into AI. So this is the way to control sensitive data going in and out of these large language models, is to make sure it just never leaves the protected workspace of the enterprise browser. There's plenty of other ways and use cases that we can deal with AI as well. We actually have AI built into the browser. We've had this forever. We have an AI assistant that's linked to your AI engine. We could either bump people directly over to it, and it just sits here as part of the browser itself. We've got agentic AI built in so that we can run scripts and we can run workflows that do fantastic things inside the browser. Some of these things they stop and wait for you to do things, right? So they may, prompt for a contact name, do some things, and then wait for you to insert something, and then it goes and does the rest. And of course, it's able to move data from one screen to a new screen. So, this is unbelievably powerful to have that agentic AI built in. The other thing we've done is we've built a full password manager into the browser. So again, if you think about all the solutions that you've got with all of this technical debt, surrounding your systems, your ZTNA systems, your CASBs, your SASE, maybe VPNs. Maybe you guys are still using VPNs. You might have a password manager. You might have a DLP engine that you're using. But all of those things, when we start to rethink, do we really want to break and inspect more traffic? That's getting harder to do, by the way, for those network folks out there. Looking at the network used to be fun, right? We used to be able to break open packets and look at it. It's cool. We could see where people went. We could see the data that was going through. Today, we just can't. We have about 70% coverage today because the rest of the 30%, you can't break it open. Can't look at it because of TLS 1.3 and perfect forward secrecy and, the quick protocol and some new things that are happening that just don't allow, even with the private keys and with certificates and everything else, it doesn't allow us to see the traffic. So a lot of the solutions that we've kind of been relying on for the last, 15 years, we just can't, and it's going to get even worse in the future. But the browser always sees the traffic, right? The browser has to see the traffic. It has to decrypt it, right? The browser is the A in the A to B conversation for public key encryption. So the point is that you've got control, kind of future-proofed for all of these applications, as they're developed, regardless of what cipher suites they're using or anything like that. So one of the things I wanted to share also with this password manager is the ability to share a common user account. Now, usually this is a no-no. You don't share passwords, in the corporate world, because there's no attribution back to the user, right? However, with our password manager that we've integrated here, we can share what might be a common corporate password, to something like Twitter in this case, or X, but don't allow the user to see the password, and don't allow the user to even grab the password. So as I go to insert, to get logged into Twitter here, Notice the password gets inserted for me, but this was shared by the marketing team. And of course, I can't reveal the password. I can't see it. Um, we're looking out for things like Burp Suite and Fiddler and these man-in-the-middle attacks, and we won't let those occur. So I'm able to log in uh, securely, not at the DOM level, not at the document object model level like other password managers do, but at the network level. So I'm able to securely get in, and this is my only way to get into Twitter, right? So I'm compelled to be monitored and recorded. I might be compelled not to use the messages part of Twitter, right? Or, go change the password. Now that I'm in, I could go change the password, right? Well, no, we're going to block that page because the browser itself can make sure that you have guardrails around what you're doing, including going to sites maybe you're not supposed to go to. Like here's a gambling site. Maybe we send a warning or we send, we can understand what these sites are, especially if they're phishing attempts, because this is how you stop phishing. Phishing, we've always tried to stop it in the email, right? We've always just bought better email scanners and those kind of things, but they still get through. Um, you stop phishing where it actually happens, which is the browser. So if we see that a website is uncategorized and we've never seen this before, and you start putting a corporate email address into one of these unknown sites, we can stop them in their tracks and make sure that, we got to make sure we're doing the right thing here, or maybe send them to training or say, hey, this looks completely suspicious. Be super careful, or just block it altogether. I could have blocked that whole exercise altogether. So that's the power of having control of the input and the output, and of course, what appears on the screen as well. So, back here in Salesforce, I've got a whole section of data that I just made blurry. Well, why is it blurry? I can't read that. Well, that's the point. There's sensitive data in there, right? So if I wanted to reveal this, you can see that, yeah, of course, there was a credit card number. There's sensitive data. But we want to make sure that if we put this somewhere that we're not supposed to, that it doesn't work, right? So my personal Gmail, that's a no-no. We're not going to let that go. However, my corporate Gmail, if I go over here and paste it in, watch what happens to the screen. Because the moment that sensitive data shows up, well, now we've got this watermark going across the screen. So it looks a little obnoxious, but it's there for a reason. It's there if there's sensitive data to deter somebody from taking a picture with their camera phone. So we're not going to let that happen. And of course, we do have the ability to protect against screenshots on some operating systems as well. So for instance, if somebody gets a snipping tool in Windows, or if they're trying to broadcast it over Teams or Zoom or something like that, that data won't go over, because of those digital rights management capabilities within the browser. But that brings me back to kind of the network. And I really want to touch on this super quick. But I think what I want to do is show this to you on a different machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here and pull up this other machine that I'm working on here, which is iGel. All right. So hopefully you guys can see this. If you can't, please let me know. But this is my iGel screen. Now notice that I have iGel running. I've branded this thing, my JT Marlin logo. That's why I love iGel. You can customize everything about it. And of course, when I launch iGel here, I'm going to get my welcome screen. I'm going to go ahead and get logged in, and we can actually do this in real time. So I'm going to do jason@trunk.one, and it's going to send me through a notification process. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to say 98 yes on my phone here. Let's do 98 yes. Face ID. So this would be a real world experience, running Island on iGel. So, if this was a first time usage, you might have to get through an acceptable usage policy, right? Maybe make the lawyers happy, hit the accept button. But notice that I'm back to my desktop. I'm back to exactly where I was. I have all my applications here. I have those notifications that I had a minute ago. Everything is ready for me here. Now, the network is also ready for me. So, for instance, if I wanted to get to something behind a firewall, like my Splunk instance, it just goes there. Now, even if I had Edge or Chrome or Chromium on this machine, it would not be able to route me to this network. It's only because I'm logged in, authenticated, it knows who I am. an island is using the island network to get me there. So that's the reason I'm able to get there, is because of that private access capability. And of course, if I want to open up my Outlook, I've got this. This just automatically created a PWA for me. I didn't do anything. This could be a brand new, first time usage, which really this is what it is. It's my first time usage of Island, for that profile here. And here I've got that same experience that you just saw in the Windows environment. So it's truly, it's utilizing the local compute power of this machine that it's on. And a lot of times these machines are very thin client machines, the 4 gig of RAM or 8 gig of RAM or whatever it is. They're not really that beefy of a box, but those are good enough to run, the key applications that you need from an end user perspective, Teams and Zoom and, and Outlook, and of course, all of your normal web browsing. But you get the protections, and you get the robotic process automation, and you get the password manager and all of the things, the secure browsing. We've built in SMB file shares, all of those features just built into that one platform. Now, of course, because it's iGel, you can have this auto start. You can have it be the only thing on the desktop. You can have it go right into it. Obviously, about all the full configuration capabilities of this operating system.